you know, we are going to be getting to those challenges. But before we get to some of the challenges that we know everyone is facing, we also wanted to share some of the contract wins. So despite the fiscal challenges and everything else we're facing from erosion of due process rights and everything like that, our locals really are winning big in a lot of ways at the bargaining table. So, for example, we have in recent contracts just ratified since the last fall town hall. We've had the Berkeley Community Charter School of Cambridge, Everett Library, Lawrence Teachers Union, North Attleboro Federation of Teachers, and Salem Library. And again, that's just from the last town hall in the last few months that those locals have been able to win and ratify contracts. And we the fight continues though in a lot of our other locals that are currently in active bargaining. If we can go to the next slide, please. These are the locals that are still organizing and bargaining right now for better wages, benefits, and the supports they need to be successful in their schools and libraries and communities. And so we want everyone to know, we've got your backs here at AFT Mass, and we'll continue to support you in these ongoing organizing and bargaining fights. And we also know that we can learn from each other. And so tonight we really wanted to highlight some of the locals that have been trying different strategies to continue to strengthen their collective bargaining and organizing. And so if you look at the next slide, you'll see that we have a panel tonight of leaders from Billerica Federation of Teachers. Dave Adams is joining us. We have Allie Waith from the Community Charter School of Cambridge, one of our new locals. Congratulations on their first contract. And Bob Collins from the North Attleboro Federation of Teachers as well. And so all three of these locals have been trying some new strategies to continue to build power within their union and had some learnings that they wanted to share with us. And so we're so thrilled to have them here with us tonight. So, the first question we have for each of you is just, tell us a little bit more about what you were able to win and how you were able to win it in your last contract. And we didn't actually discuss who was going to go first, but why don't I go in alphabetical order? So I'm going to go from Allie to Bob and then to Dave, and then maybe we reverse orders in the second question. So,
Sure.
Allie, welcome. Tell us, how did you all win big in your last contract and what strategies did you use?
Yeah, I mean, it has definitely been a roller coaster of a last year. I want to first start by naming the woman who started and founded our movement to start our union, Sagan Helly. She was the first on our staff to start going around and start garnering support. Unfortunately, she did have to leave the school for personal reasons, and now I believe she's pursuing labor law in law school right now as her chosen field, which is exciting. But yeah, I think the establishment of our union and the support from our community, meaning our colleagues and our parents of our students, has been amazing. I think some of the biggest wins that we achieved in our contract was protected meeting time for our special education learning specialists, which was something that we'd been fighting for a really long time. We did get an extra personal day, which was super exciting. And we also got established committees to reopen our contract for both salary and our evaluation process, which has been another thing that we've really wanted to tackle for a long time, as well as finally getting an established grievance process. We had lost several staff members to what we thought was a decently solid grievance process, and now it's all laid out in stone that will hopefully protect people going forward. So those are some of our biggest wins.
Awesome. Thanks so much for sharing. Congratulations on both having a union and your first contract. So, two major victories and wins. Bob, you're next. Uh-oh. Here we go.
There we go. All right. So, welcome. Thank you for having us. Bob Collins, North Attleboro Federation of Teachers. We one of the things that worked out well for us was we saw so much more member engagement. We used silent reps for the first time, and it actually escalated perfectly. So Emma was really coordinating that piece with us. Andy was handling the negotiations piece, but like we came with 25, then we came with like 40, then we came with like 70. And every time they kept trying to uh basically like they, one of the things they said was, oh, it's summertime, so no one's going to come. So we put that message out and then the people responded, but that was the 50 group. So every time they thought there was going to be, and then there was a point where administration would not come in the room because they didn't want to say things in front of the silent reps. And then I did notice for the first time ever in our negotiations, the superintendent wouldn't speak anymore. He made the attorney do all the talking. So that was one of the huge things. Some of the big wins we got were we got up to 20 days now that we can use for family sick leave because prior to that point it was 7 days. So we had a lot of people who were trying to take care of family members, close family members, and so that was a big win. We did our best raise we've gotten in for that anyone can remember. We also were able to get some sick leave buyback and some other benefits for our retirees. So I think there was a lot of really big wins. And my favorite moment was on the last day of negotiations. The school committee told the superintendent and his attorney to be quiet, we're in charge. And then all of a sudden things started moving. So we were able to split them. They said to me later on they didn't want to sit in the same room as them because they're embarrassed. I'm like, well, I'm pretty sure you can't come to our room because we're negotiating with you. So
Thanks so much for sharing. And again, they've had some really great wins in North Attleboro, and I think more member engagement than they've seen in a really long time. So kudos to you all. All right. And Dave, tell us about Borica. What happened there?
Yeah, so we this is the second time we've done silent reps. Um, we did a more kind of conscious escalation, I think, this year, and the timeline that we have in Billerica is we're a town, we're a big town, but we're still a town, and the result of that is you have to if you don't get a contract basically by the end of September, you have to wait until May because town meeting has to approve. Um, so we kind of scheduled our escalation around thinking that we were coming back to school and we were going to get 3 intense weeks of member participation uh, in an effort to get the contract done by the kind of deadline we had. And in that time, we got a lot done. We uh, engaged the community quite a bit. We, I've always been, I've always questioned the efficacy of yard signs, but people love yard signs, and we ordered, I think we ordered 400 of them, and we very much ran out of those. We also had our members go to back to school nights around the district and collect signatures of support from parents, and we ended up in two nights we got about 1,200 signatures, which we presented to um, management on the last day of our second, what we thought was going to be the last bargaining session, but we ended up having to have one more. And ultimately, that got us across the finish line. I mean, the paras ended up with, the people at the very top had the lowest raises, but about 90% of the unit were getting somewhere between 28 and 35% raises over a 4-year period. And the teachers got 11 and a half over 4. So, and we got a 4-year deal, which I'm kind of happy about because it was a lot of work and tiring. So anyway, that's kind of where we were.
Awesome. Well, congratulations again on those big wins. And, we know that it's great to be able to celebrate the wins. And if you're just joining us, we are hearing from Allie Wade from the Community Charter School of Cambridge, where they just bargained their very first contract after unionizing for the first time. And their new contract sets a standard for charter school working conditions and creates a lot more equity, transparency, and voice for educators in the workplace. They just didn't have a lot of voice actually to start with. And we also heard from Bob Collins from North Attleboro Federation of Teachers. They had won a Best in a Generation contract that delivers incredible gains specifically on sick leave buybacks, wages, stipends, longevity, using sick time to care for family and more. And we just heard from Dave Adams, Billerica Federation of Teachers president, and they had significant gains for their paras and were able to eliminate the bottom steps, combine lanes, and have 8.75% raise, and the teachers also won major raises as well. And so, it's great to celebrate the wins, but the reality is, there's a lot of learnings we have in every contract fight, right? So, can you just name maybe one or two lessons or learned or things maybe that you would do differently next time based on your most recent contract campaign? Dave, do you want to start this one and then we'll go backwards?
Yeah, that's fine. One of the things, I don't know if anybody is thinking about doing open bargaining, or not open bargaining, but silent reps. Uh, Once you get 200 people in that room, it becomes often hard to manage. At least the caucuses become very hard to manage. We didn't really have that figured out, I think. Just the process of kind of vetting the offers they're putting across the table when you have 200 people who are all coming up to you and telling you what they think about the agreement is really difficult. So I think we're going to have to think about in the future kind of how we both kind of create a space for the leadership to kind of look at those proposals and also give the silent rep something to do it during that period, whether it's like, hey, we're going to look over this stuff now and you should be texting a colleague who's not here and telling them to come to the next one or whatever it is. But I think that's the every time we do this, we find some challenges inherent in dealing with silent reps, and we have to keep kind of adapting as we go.
Thanks, Dave. Bob, how about you? We're running a little short on time, so any
Yeah,
quick
real
advice
quick.
on learnings?
We have always had a huge issue with like a disconnect, and one of the things that I did not thinking, I just did it, but it worked out, was I made videos, short 2-minute videos, and we put them right up on the Facebook and Instagram page, and our members came up in droves and were like, we have never felt so connected. So it was really pretty cool to be able to do that for them so that they could feel not just the silent reps, but the people who couldn't make the meetings, they felt like they were right in the process. So definitely would recommend doing that. Keep them short though. 2 minutes, people. Our average watch was 1 minute, like 30 seconds or something. So 2 minutes and then you're out.
But a new communication strategy that really works. So thanks for sharing that. And Allie, take us home.
Yeah, I think given that our union, we started from scratch, we actually got 90% of our membership to sign cards within 2 days when we filed, which was very exciting. But with as quickly as we moved, it was very important for us to not only honor the people that had signed cards and were fully behind us 100%, it was deeply important for us to also go back to membership who were still kind of a little iffy, maybe a little nervous. Our school was turning 20 and they were like, wow, this is a really big change. And it was very important to us to go back to those people and repair those relationships and really make sure that we answered their questions, really sat down and utilized the relationships that we had with each other. A big thing at our school is that we try and lead with inquiry and care. And we had to assume the best in our colleagues, no matter where they were coming from. And that's been hard, but I can definitely say that going back and having those conversations made the process better. Hasn't fully been repaired, I would say, but it's definitely moving in the right direction. And we hope to continue to build on that.
Well, thank you so much. Again, one of the great things about being in a union is that we get to learn from each other and inspire each other. So, congratulations to all of you again. And if you all have questions about any of their campaigns, definitely reach out to your field reps and they can connect you all to the leaders and locals that just shared their contract wins tonight. So, thanks so much again. All right, so moving from the local level, we're going to move up to the State House now, where we have a lot of busy activity. We've been at the State House quite often, and we have been working on a number of different legislative priorities. So here are some of the ones that we are going to highlight tonight, but you can actually see the full list of legislative priorities on our website if you haven't seen it before. We have over 40 bills that we've testified on or sent in commentary and testimony about. So, for example, one of, oops, can we go back real quick? These are, well, I'm not going to read all of them up here because you can read them yourself, but did want to highlight a few of them. For example, Act Modernizing School Construction. We've heard a lot about the need for new school buildings and renovations and the state of a lot of our buildings. So the special commission was adopted, so that was a really great win. And then we've had some areas though where we have not got made the progress that we'd like to see. So, for example, the educator and PSRP minimum wage. But we are working with our para working group to construct a new bill that we can continue to file, and we'll continue to advocate for minimum wage both for educators and PSRPs. Then that shows some of the other ones. The last one I did want to highlight for a second because our latest information and intel based on meetings we just had with the leaders of, and we meet regularly with the co-chairs of the Education Committee and leadership in the House and Senate, is that we do believe that, and I know Bill Ricca, this has been a big issue for some of the folks there that I heard when most recently you talked to them, is that we do believe that the act promoting safe technology use and distraction-free education for youth, so that's taking cell phones out of the classroom, is on track to pass sometime this spring so that it would be implemented for the fall. A few other legislative priorities that we also wanted to highlight are on the next few slides. So the Retirement Plus bill is something that we've been working on actually personally for a very long time. We filed this bill actually in the Boston Teachers Union about 10 years ago, and since then have had a very active group of BTU members who have led the Retirement Plus committee, and we have made a lot of progress. AFT Mass joined shortly after that, and now the MTA also joined in the last year as well in our advocacy. And so we over the last session had the House pass R plus, and then they passed it again this session. It's now in Senate Ways and Means. And it shows this slide shows some of the advocacy we've continued to do, whether it's the letter writing. We had our first lobby day last February, which was very successful. We had dozens of AFT Mass members testify. And this, I kid you not, this is a bill we work on, I think, almost every single day, constantly talking to right now the senators and getting a sense of what's happening. We are still cautiously optimistic, but this is what we need everyone here to know, is that we really need this to happen like now. And you all know that for those of us in K through 12, budgets are being formed. We're facing a fiscal crisis. And so when you talk to your senators, and we need you to call your senators and send them messages that the time sensitivity of this is really important and help to explain that, if we get this passed now, it actually will prevent further reductions in force or potential layoffs, and that it could help to ease a bit of the fiscal crisis that so many of our districts are facing right now. And the educators really need to know now if the bill is going to pass for that timeliness reason as well. So please do convey that to your senators. It's really important that they hear directly from their constituents, and particularly if you're in, the Senate President Spolka's district or Roderick's in the Ways and Means chair. We'd love to hear from them too. But otherwise, please do let your senators know that this is timely, this is important, and we encourage them to contact leadership to get this bill voted on ASAP. And the next one is the literacy bill. This is also something that actually just passed the Senate on Thursday. We were able to fight for some amendments in the House version and successfully get those passed. We are now also working on getting new amendments to the Senate version that we hope will help to strengthen the bill and address some of the concerns that we have in it that basically are a little top down and a little too prescriptive. And we think that the amendments that we are supporting will again help to strengthen it and make sure that educators have agency in their classrooms to get the supports and funding they need, and that it's not an unfunded mandate as well. So that is an update on the literacy bill, and we will keep everyone posted on that. But again, we've been in close touch with the Senate on that bill as well. The next issue we wanted to make sure that everyone was aware of is, now that the CAS ballot question passed last year, the governor then convened a grad council to think about what next. And so if there are going to be changes to the graduation requirements in the state of Massachusetts, what would they be? And we have been working hard to ensure that educators and those most impacted have a voice in what happens next. We have convened a focus group. And so thank you to the dozen or so members and leaders in AFT Mass who have participated in our first focus group. We'll be having a second one shortly, and that is going through the preliminary recommendations. And so you can see our response there. And as we continue to meet with that focus group, we're going to put together what we think needs to happen in terms of next steps for the graduation requirements. But we would love to hear from you. So if you have thoughts on what you'd like to see, we'd love to hear from you. They are considering end of course assessments. They're considering capstone or portfolios, implementing mass core as a requirement, and badges like the seal or seals like the seal of biliteracy. And so those are some updates on what's happening on the grad requirement front. Okay. So as you can see, there's a lot to do in the State House, and we are planning our second annual AFT Mass Lobby Day. Again, the first one we had last year was very successful, and you can see a picture from that Lobby Day. And we'd like for everyone to please mark your calendars for June 24th. That is when we will have our second annual Lobby Day to push forward all of these different pieces of legislations that we just covered, and other bills as well that we were not able to cover tonight because we are very busy with so many different bills. Okay, if you do have any questions about the State House work, though, please do feel free to reach out to Mike Canavan, our legislative advocate in the State House, or Sarah Wilfred, who also does a lot of our policy work in the State House as well. Okay. And by the way, if you do have questions, you can put them in the chat. I am not able to follow chat while I'm facilitating, but we do have someone on staff who's summarizing those questions for when we can get to the Q&A. All right, big issue right now, and I saw it in the chat earlier when I was able to scroll through real quick and here and look at the lowlights and highlights. We know that funding is a huge issue. We know that in many of our school districts, we're looking at enrollment drops. In Chelsea, for example, 10% of the whole student population. In Boston, we know it's 1,500, Lynn 600, and that's like whole schools, right? The populations of whole schools that we're facing. And in addition to the lower enrollment, which impacts our fiscal crisis, we also have a perfect storm of other situations that are also resulting in fiscal cliffs. And so we have been very aggressive and proactive in advocating for funding for our schools. So we've already sent a letter to the governor before the governor's bill that came out just today. We already actually put a statement out on the governor's bill today, or I'm sorry, budget. We have already met directly with governor to advocate for those priorities. Now we are meeting, like I said, with the House chair and the Education Committee chairs, and have already sent their letters to them about the solutions for the fiscal crisis. This includes, of course, Chapter 70 funding, special education circuit breaker funding, transportation in district and outside of district, full funding of the charter reimbursement. And also what we've been asking for is that there be grants to districts for specifically, particularly for the districts that are seeing the huge enrollment drops as a result of the federal immigration policies and ICE concerns right now. They did this during the pandemic and had grants for districts that also saw enrollment drops then, not as drastic as the ones that we're seeing now. And so we feel very strongly that there needs to be the millionaire's tax funds going to districts which are seeing those big drops in enrollment and funding gaps as well. We continue also to work work with our United for Our Future campaign and working with locals on Proposition 2.5 override campaigns as well. And so, we again know this is a huge issue for so many of our locals right now, and are exploring some other options. I already met just this last week with both Secretary Tutwiler and Commissioner Martinez, and have been again advocating for all the different types of solutions that we see to give our district some relief, and when it comes to the funding and the enrollment drops. And so we'll continue to advocate in that front and urge you all to reach out to your legislators. A lot of people don't reach out to their legislators. So when just 5 or 6 or 10 people call, that becomes like a big deal for a legislator. So literally, if just a dozen of you all from your local call your legislators and say, "Hey, we really need you to help us advocate for more funding," the step in the process now is, the governor puts out her budget, and then the House will build on that and usually, raise the funding levels even there. And then it goes to the Senate, and we'll continue to advocate for the Senate to like raise the budget even beyond that. So that is the process that we're keeping track of, and we'll continue to keep you all posted. But it has been a huge, again, issue, not just because of enrollment drops, but also the loss of funding from the federal government. And speaking of federal government, we are really honored and lucky to have Senator Ed Markey here to join us and to give us a little bit more of an update on the federal landscape and what's happening there and what we can do to help. So please welcome Senator Ed Markey. So great to have you here with us for a town hall tonight.
Well, it's great to be with you, Jessica. It's great to be with all of the great people here. Let me try to get myself. Yeah, I think my screen is working now. So yeah, so it's great to be with you again, Jessica, and your incredible team. Brant, thank you for all of your great work. Thanks to the AFT teachers and paraprofessionals and librarians and nurses and support staff in public schools and colleges and libraries across the Commonwealth who carry our democracy on your backs every single day in schoolrooms, classrooms, all across the country. And I know you're there, Brian, too, and Rory. So thank you for your great work in making all of this possible, because from our classrooms to the State House to the halls of Congress, we are fighting for democracy, for dignity, and for the rule of law at a moment when unprecedented and lawless actions from a corrupt federal administration are testing the very foundations of our country. There is a lot going on in 2026, and we are only just 1 month in, but the stakes could not be higher. It's a fight over who we are and who gets to belong in this country. And let me start by saying this very clearly. I want to thank AFT and all of the educators for stepping up in this moment. Your rapid response webinars and solidarity actions with other community groups, your willingness to confront fear with facts and solidarity, you are the champions of the students of our nation. And at a time when communities are being shaken, when families are living in terror, AFT Massachusetts has chosen courage and action over silence. You did not look away. You did not agonize. You organized. And that matters, because right now, across our entire country, we are witnessing something deeply dangerous to our democracy. Donald Trump and his lackeys are terrorizing our communities to divide residents, to rule through fear and force, to unconstitutionally enter our neighbors' homes, to murder innocent people on our streets. Our schools must be places of safety. Our children should not feel that they are not protected, that they are not secure. But Trump's ICE thugs are using them as bait This is not law enforcement. This is not public safety. This is the deliberate terrorizing of families by a corrupt administration that has abandoned decency and the rule of law. And make no mistake, cruelty is the point in the Trump era. Because while some people in Washington are rushing to give the Department of Homeland Security more unchecked power, more money, more muscle, I want you to hear this directly from me. Tomorrow, I will vote no on the Homeland Security funding bill on the floor of the United States Senate. No funding for ICE. I cannot give a blank check to lawlessness, and I will not bankroll cruelty with taxpayer dollars. Instead, we must focus on accountability. We must impeach Kristi Noem. We must get ICE out of our cities, and we must pass the qualified immunity bill that Representative Ayanna Pressley and I introduced earlier this month so that we can hold ICE agents and all law enforcement officers accountable for their misconduct. We've seen this pattern before: unchecked authority, dehumanization, and silence from those in power. And every time, the cost is paid by the most vulnerable in our society. So it's why I have stood up to MAGA at every turn. No one in the Senate has voted against more of Trump's nominees and agenda than me. I'm number one in voting no against him in his first year back. And in committee rooms, on the Senate floor, and out in the streets with you, resisting Trump every single day. And let's be clear about the contrast in this moment. While Trump and MAGA extremists are pushing fear, you are pushing facts. While they are criminalizing classrooms, you are protecting our kids. While they are tearing families apart, you are holding our communities together. That is the difference between authoritarianism and democracy. So now let's just talk about what that means for public education. Because our public schools cannot thrive when immigrant families are under attack. Every raid sends shockwaves through classrooms. Every act of intimidation shows up as trauma in a child's body. Educators know what has to happen. They know what they have to do in order to protect the children in our society. That is what this is going to be all about every single day in order to protect our democracy. And that's who you have always been. You've been right on the front lines, guaranteeing that we have the best public schools. And we know that public schools cannot thrive when immigrant families are under attack. Every raid just absolutely is undermining our public school system. You can see it in attendance. You can see it in behavior. You can see it in fear written across a student's face. And then on top of all of that, you're told to do more with less. Cuts in school funding, cuts to special education, cuts to your health care. But I will not allow this administration or anyone else to defund our children's future. And that's why, as a member of the Senate Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee, I have been relentless in defending the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, relentless in fighting for full funding for public schools, relentless in standing up for paraprofessionals who are too often underpaid, undervalued, and overworked. So let me say this plainly. Paraprofessionals are not supplemental. They are essential. Paraprofessionals deserve a living wage. One job should be enough. They deserve higher pay, better benefits, and improved working conditions. And that is why I introduced the Pay Paraprofessionals and Education Support Staff Act, legislation that would set a minimum salary for paraprofessionals across our country of $45,000, higher in Massachusetts. And that is why I proudly co-sponsored the Pay Teachers Act with Senator Bernie Sanders, setting a minimum national salary of $60,000. Because dignity on the job is not a luxury, it is a promise. And when educators organize, when you refuse to accept the theft of your earned retirement, we made history together. The repeal that restored Social Security benefits to more than 2.8 million public servants in our country. I was there with Jessica. This is just an incredible battle, and it was for 130,000 people in Massachusetts to get their denied Social Security benefits. I had voted no, even though the Democratic leadership had wanted a yes, and a cut with Ronald and a cutting a deal with Ronald Reagan. I just said no. And it took years and years of work. And in January of this year, in the Oval Office, in the White House, that bill got signed. So we have a lot of things to be proud of in the past, but we're at a juncture right now where we are challenged more than we have ever been challenged before. This is, without question, the greatest period of threat that we have lived through in generations in our country. And we need to all stand together. And I promise you that I am going to do that. I am going to ensure that building on our victory with the Social Security benefits at the beginning of last year, that we are going to guarantee that we repeal decades of injustice. And that is what happens when working people organize and when they have allies who don't flinch. This is the most energized I've ever been. Donald Trump is bringing out the Malden in me. I spent my first year after graduating from BC as a substitute teacher in the Malden school system, and I am asking for your continued support, your organizing muscle, and your belief that each of us can have a role in saving our public schools and our sacred democracy. The future is our fight. We will fight for fully funded public schools from pre-K to higher education so every student can learn and thrive and belong. We'll fight to defend our democracy, to protect truth in our classrooms, and to make sure educators, not MAGA extremists, shape what our children are taught. And we're going to fight to protect our trans kids so they are safe and affirmed and free to be who they are in our schools, in our communities. And we'll fight for our immigrant students and families so no child has to fear a knock at the door or a raid in a neighborhood just for going to school. And so no American is murdered on our streets by ICE thugs. In moments like this, AFT doesn't agonize, AFT organizes. You organize for your students, for our communities, for your co-workers, for democracy itself. And I will always fight with you. I will always defend our communities with you. It is absolutely a critical time in our nation's history. So thank you, Jessica, for inviting me on. Thanks to your incredible team. And if it's possible, Jessica, I'd love to take a few questions if people want to throw any my way.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you always for being such an inspiration and a leader for us in Massachusetts. And, the first question is from Danielle Frayne from the BTU. And she says, Senator, after you vote no, what is the next step? Democrats can't seem how Democrats can't I think how to know seem to know how to fight this regime, and our Congress continues to be silent as we lose our lives. That's from
Oh,
Danielle.
we are saying to John Thune, the Republican leader, um, that that we need to completely and totally overhaul the Department of Homeland Security. It is absolutely a corrupt organization. He is saying right now he's not going to negotiate. So we could very well see a shutdown of the federal government beginning tomorrow night because we're not going to give on this absolute necessity that we stand up for democracy. We stand up for all of those who right now can see in Minneapolis the plan which Trump has for every city in our country. So we're going to continue to fight until the Republicans actually come to the table so we can begin to talk about what the Department of Homeland Security has to do. But it's so corrupt from top to bottom that we just have to dismantle the thing and rebuild it again, because in its present form, with Kristi Noem, with Tom Homan, with Bongino, and with Stephen Miller making all the decisions and orders from the White House for Donald Trump. This is just an agency that should not be allowed to exist as it has presently been constructed with all of these almost stormtroopers going through cities without any control over them whatsoever. So that's where we're going to be going, and we're going to be fighting hard. And we don't know how long it's going to last, but we're going to take it to them, as we did on healthcare last year, until we have a victory.
Thank you so much. I know that you have another engagement, and so we have to end this portion of the town hall. But we are so grateful again for you and your leadership, and we'll continue, obviously, to work with you and to do what we need to do to protect Massachusetts and our communities. And, that's our schools, but it's also our hospitals, our libraries, and so much more, our public services. So thank you again so much. And I know we'll have future.
Can I just say this, Jessica,
Yeah.
if I may?
Yes. Oh,
We invented the public school in Massachusetts.
right.
But even before that, we invented democracy. It was
That's right.
250 years. It was 250 years ago that the Minutemen and Minutewomen and all the cities and towns represented by the teachers who are on this evening, where they rose up against a king who felt that he could impose his will on people and just trample on their rights. And those original Minutemen and Minutewomen, they were knocked down, but they were not knocked out. They got up, they fought, and they won. And then the abolitionist movement started in all of the communities represented tonight. They were knocked down, but they were not knocked out. They got up, they fought, and they won. The suffragette movement all started right where we lived. They were knocked down, but they were not knocked out. They got up, they fought, and they won. Martin Luther King Jr., he came to Boston University and he met Coretta Scott, who was over as a student at the New England Conservatory of Music. And they went off across the country after leaving Boston, and they were knocked down, but they were not knocked out. They got up, they fought, and they won. The same-sex marriage movement in Boston, Massachusetts, we were first. They were knocked down, not knocked out. They got up, they fought, they won. That's where we are again today. People are knocked down, but we are not knocked out. We're going to get up and we're going to fight and we are going to win. And the teachers are at the absolute leadership role in this. You are what it is that makes our country great. So I just want to thank all of you for joining tonight. And I want to thank you again, Jessica, for giving me the honor of joining with you.
Thank you so much. And I hope you saw the love that you were getting in the chat and the Zoom. And we really do appreciate you. And as history teacher, I love that you just gave us a big history lesson too of, when we've been down before and when we've been getting back up. And so we'll continue to fight together.
We're
So thank you
Massachusetts.
again.
We're Massachusetts. We're not just the Bay State, we're the brain state. So we've got to lead the rest of the nation. We always have been. Thank you all so much. Thanks
Thank
for
you
having
so
me.
much for your leadership. Okay, I'm sorry we didn't get to all of the questions, but we will, I know, have future opportunities to speak with Senator Markey. He's always been a credible friend to us and has always been there for us. And so I know that there will be future opportunities again to speak with him. But one thing that he, has also been fighting for is to combat the Medicaid cuts. So we know that in the quote unquote one big beautiful bill that there were a lot of Medicaid cuts that were cut for public school students, but also, the tax on Medicaid. There are a lot of implications on our healthcare costs now. And so we have a presentation from Andy Powell, who is our in-house expert on our healthcare. And there are some really important things that you all need to know about what's going on in terms of healthcare and access to our hospitals and healthcare in general. So, Andy.
Great. Thank you very much. Yes, it's not surprised, right? You're already aware because you see the premium cost of your health insurance has been really rising up high in the last couple of years. So I just wanted to give a little bit of sharing as to what's driving this and some of the impacts we're already starting to see as a result. Because as a local unions, you may or may not have heard from your administration on the benefits coming forward for the next year's, renewal and what's happening. But people seem to really be questioning, well, why are the costs so high? As Jessica had just mentioned, certainly that so-called big beautiful bill of cutting Medicaid cuts alone has risen some of the costs that hospitals are charging, because hospitals service people on Medicaid now can't get reimbursed by the federal government. They need to find those monies as well. But let me just drive a little bit now. First of all, this record I have here that I'm going to go through briefly is something I designed and shared with to our locals before the beginning of the fiscal year 26. So it was May of 25. I will be doing an updated version. I am always monitoring. I'm very engaged in the healthcare all around the state and working on this. So you'll get updated documents from me as well eventually. So really what's happening first in the last 13 years, think about 2009, 2010 was the last time we were dealing with double-digit premium increases. And then came down with some changes in benefits occurred, but then things went well. And now here we are again at a skyrocketing level. Here are some of the key trends. These are not all the trends, but these are some of the important trends that you have to understand. Primary driver is increased healthcare costs charged by hospitals, physicians, and pharmaceutical companies. And the reason for that is because of what's occurring here. We have seen now a significant increase of services. More people are walking in to the emergency room or urgent care, convenient MD for services. More people are going to their doctors now than they've been in the past. So there's more costs on the table. And as a result of the need to provide services at a higher level than we've had experience in the background, hospitals and doctors are now charging more because they need to be able to be available to provide services. We have, unfortunately, this 22% piece is actually a little bit lower than the most recent. Chronic conditions have gone way up. Chronic conditions meaning cancer, diabetes, heart diseases, strokes, things that require surgeries. We're seeing more and more, unfortunately, people are experiencing chronic conditions. And of course, that's very costly for services on those issues, right? 50% increase in mental behavioral health care since COVID. Surprise? It's interesting. I don't see this in the media much at all, talking about what was the impact of COVID. There's been a significant impact. And behavioral and mental health is not just for services for therapy, but many of these people also have now medical conditions as a result. And that's also, again, driving a lot of costs. So really, most of this is coming from this perspective of we have more patients now needing services than we've experienced in the past. That's just not going to go downhill fast at all, right? In addition, and this is a recent study that, the healthcare services nationally, inflation costs, the cost of hospitals providing services, doctors and specialists, there appears to be a prediction that's going to raise by as close as 49%, 370 billion. Now, this is national. This is not just Massachusetts. This is across the country by 2027, which could also lead to continuously higher premiums. Now, my own experience is I'm working with local unions, I'm working in the cities and towns and experience and analyze their programs. We're seeing high claims. We're not seeing low claims. So predict that double-digit premiums are going to continue to arise. Next slide on this. Thank you. So what we're starting to see is impact of benefits, right? We're seeing that higher premiums have a negative financial impact on employees and retirees. Obviously, if your premium goes up by 15, 16%, and you're paying 40% of the premium, it's a lot of money, right? So higher costs of sharing may lead to some subscribers not even utilizing healthcare services, treatment, or prescriptions. This is true. Some people just can't afford it. They step out. Or if the cost of the co-payments and deductibles go up, they just, I'm not going to the doctor. I can't afford this right now. It's very scary. Our employers, here's what we're seeing. They're changing provider networks. They're trying to take some of the doctor networks, hospital networks out of the insurance carrier plans to help reduce how much access you have. Increased cost sharing related to expenses such as specialized RXs. We know prescription drug costs are very, very high, but as I mentioned, there's so much more nurse needs of services. But that also means people now need more RXs. So the costs have really increased. Employers are trying to increase co-payments, cost sharing, going more to the employees, or they're even cutting some prescriptions out. We all know GLP-1s is a big issue on the table right now, right? GLP-1s for obesity and even diabetic treatment. Some of the providers are trying to take this off the table because of the cost of it. We do see offer that the employers are trying to now really kind of advocate for more high deductible healthcare plans, which I'm not against. We didn't see a lot of those in municipalities, high deductible healthcare plans, but they really are something to consider. Propose more premium percentage sharing through negotiations. So the cities and towns could be coming to you as a PEC, a union representatives or IAC, and say, hey, we want to split the shifts. We can no longer afford to only you pay 25%, we pay 75%. We need you to pay more. So there's a lot of that discussions going on right now, reduce premium contributions to retirees. This is a challenge because the retiree benefit programs, in the cities and towns, they have the authority to go down as 50-50 splits for retiree benefits plans. That's not very nice. We do have some laws out there that can protect that, but not many communities use that Section 19 law. I'll talk about it.
So
Um,
Andy,
yeah,
we're a little over time already
I
on
know.
this section,
I
but we
know. I'm
want
going
to
to
get
stop.
to the what we can do about it.
Yeah,
And so
so
I'm just gonna,
utilizing improved health and wellness programs is a crucial thing for me.
yeah.
That people need to utilize what's available to them for health and wellness programs from the cities and towns.
Yeah.
And I'll let us step back over to Brant. I know Brant wanted to speak briefly, but for you as the local unions, if you have questions that come up about your employee benefits or the cities and towns are starting to come and reach out to you, trying to contact your field rep. Your field reps will always reach out to me for assistance. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Andy. And his information is in the chat if you have other
Yeah,
follow-up and specific questions.
please do.
But we wanted to make sure that you all knew about what we were doing about this too.
Yeah.
And so under Andy's initiative, I did reach out to the Mass AFL-CIO to ask for the creation of a healthcare task force. And so Brand's going to share a little bit more about what's happening there.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Jess. Thank you, Andy.
Mhm.
As you can see, folks, we've got a great team here at AFT Massachusetts with President Tang and a wonderful staff. It's great to hear from Senator Markey. Relationships with elected officials are really critical to our work. When we talk about organizing, we work closely with the AFL-CIO. All of our AFT members are AFL-CIO members as well, and we have a lot of collective power. So one of the attributes of working with the AFL is we can come together with all public sector unions, and we formed this terrific task force that Andy and Jessica are a part of and leading. So we're working in coalition. We're also collectively pushing back against changes, uh, cost shifts, if you will, to the GIC, and that's based upon a lot of our relationships with elected officials. And Jessica's leading the way with that. We know that there's got to be some legislative solutions to this. We're a longstanding partner in the Mass Care Coalition, single payer insurance, and we see that as one of the solutions or the solution to really mitigating a lot of these costs and preserving healthcare because we know it's so important to all of our members and our retirees. So we provide expert resources negotiating at the local level. Andy's our healthcare specialist. We've got great attorneys that provide legal advice, and we're all in it together, and we're organizing to preserve our health insurance. So, thank you, Jess.
Thank you, Brant. And he's constantly keeping track with Andy of what's happening and also fighting for us in terms of there were some potential bad GIC cuts, as he mentioned. And so we are keeping an eye on all of this and
Yeah.
continue to advocate for um, mediation of all the threats to our healthcare right now. Okay, we are coming down to the wire, and in the last few minutes, just wanted to share some of the highlights from the trip to Minneapolis. So there was, as you probably all heard, a huge day of action in Minneapolis last Friday. There were over 50,000 people in the streets. Randy Weingarten was one of the speakers at the rally in the afternoon after the 1 mile march. And she invited myself and a few other leaders to go and bear witness. And we met with the Minneapolis Federation of Educators, the St. Paul Federation of Teachers, as well as Education Minnesota. We stopped by the Carpenters Hall for an art build before the march. And it was incredible to see the solidarity. And, it was just to be, negative, was it negative 20 or negative 27 degrees wind chill? It was very cold. But you didn't even really feel it in the streets because there were so many people there. I really do think we actually just warmed the streets together. And it's really incredible what the people of Minnesota have been doing in terms of coming together in this moment. And so they have told us, what their advice is for us. And, we are not new to this. Again, we're facing our third surge currently in Massachusetts right now. So it's a lot of lessons we already knew, but there are some very definitely specific things that are happening there that haven't happened here yet in the same level and scale. And so here are just like a list of some of the things that they had said that would be helpful. So one is to get trained. And again, we've been doing that. That's why we had our move trainings this summer. We had 3 of them. If you want one at your local, we can come to you and provide that training. They said, get yourself organized. Don't wait until the inevitable happens or the worst case scenario happens. You have to get organized ahead of time. One specific thing that our locals need to do is make sure that you have emergency contact information for your members and make sure that your union has your emergency contact information. So when we saw there was a teacher there, unfortunately, who was trying to go into the school parking lot, was hit by an ICE vehicle. They tried to say she was blocking them. They have on video that she was just literally just trying to drive into the school. We think that maybe she was racially profiled. They broke her car window, pulled her out. And they're detaining people and sending them to other states within 6 to 8 hours. And so it's incredibly important to call your union leader immediately, for them to contact us and their field reps immediately, so that we can help to figure out what to do, get them supports and what to do next. But again, if we need the emergency contact information of our members to be able to help. They've also said to don't wait. Right now is when parents need to be signing a declaration of parental authority, especially if a child is detained or a parent is detained. And to start setting those things up now, start thinking about MOUs in case we have to switch to hybrid virtual learning. They did it in 16 hours in Minnesota. There were adults organizing and during bus drop-offs and pickups, passing resolutions, creating school safety teams. And these are all things, by the way, that will we are supporting already, actually, and that we have upcoming trainings on, and so we're going to share that in just a second. But their number one thing they said is, don't give up, prepare now, and show the federal government that we won't be the next one is the best thing that they said we can do to support them too. We do also have some very specific links that we are sharing. So they share this educationminnesota.org templates with resources for everybody. And then they also have a fundraising link that was put in the chat as well, that it goes towards supporting students with everything from groceries to helping with rent so that students aren't evicted and such if a breadwinner is detained. So again, we have our own upcoming training. Next slide, I believe it is. Yep. Coming up, we are working with the MTA and BTU and Luce Network and putting together this teach-in for school defense to help put together a school rapid response team and school safety team and have the latest information and resources for you all. So definitely scan to RSVP there. And apologies, we are running a little over time and we have we started a little late, so apologies about the tech glitch at the beginning. But we have just a couple more slides in addition to this one in terms of some upcoming events. So again, what else can we do? We have our Move Mobilizers application. So we got a grant from AFT that we applied for to have some funding for rank and file members to become organizers in their own locals to help, again, do the political education and organizing work that we need to do to get prepared for the moment. You do need to go through your local leaders. So definitely let your local leader know if you're interested in applying for one of the Move Mobilizer positions. They're just part-time stipended organizing opportunities. Next slide, please. We also have two big rallies planned. We have helped to anchor the Mass Fight Back table, bringing together over 100 organizations from grassroots, advocacy, labor, faith-based, and we've done a lot of coordination through with Mass 5051 and Indivisible on the large-scale actions. And in addition to the emergency webinar we helped put together this past week, and on Sunday, I know many of you were there, we had over 6,000 people actually in less than 10 hours register for that. And then in addition to that webinar, help to plan this action tomorrow at the State House at 10:30 a.m. And then also a big mass action on the 31st about pushing our own state to do more. And I'm happy to share that actually during this call, I got a call. We've been in close touch with the governor's office about this as well. And so, and the Black and Latino Caucus also filed legislation today regarding safety for our communities and in response to the threats from the immigration agents and ICE. And so we are hopeful that in the next couple of days, and actually potentially tomorrow, we'll have some good news. And so we got to keep advocating and pushing forward, though. But these are two actions that we are helping to anchor and support this week. And then last but not least, Randy actually will be here in Boston on Friday. I have actually read the book, and you have an opportunity to meet her, and you all are the first to know. We actually have a really special guest coming to moderate the book talk with Randy Weingarten. That special guest is Erica Chenoweth. Erica Chenoweth is a renowned political scientist from Harvard, and when you hear things like the 3.5% of the population getting behind a movement and sustained mass action, that is all actually coming from some of Erica Chenoweth's research. And so you all are the first to know that she will be there on Friday with Randy Weingarten. Please do RSVP. We have a little reception first, and then the book talk, and then President Weingarten will be signing books. So that is it. I'm sorry we went a few minutes over, but hope this was a useful town hall for you. We tried to get as much information out as possible. And then the last slide is just some save the dates coming up. And then stay connected. We have lots of information that we're trying to share out constantly through our monthly communicator, through our special action newsletters, through our Hustle, which is our text message program. But we are also very active on social media, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, or our YouTube channel. That's where we get out a lot of our information. We also have an activist list for those of you who want to take a little more action and get the latest of all the different kinds of marches, rallies, and opportunities coming up. So thank you all so much for joining us this evening. We really appreciate you all. Again, collective solidarity is how we are strongest and how we continue to meet the moment. And, like Senator Markey said, we won't back down. We'll continue to come together, find common cause, and stay focused on keeping our schools and our communities, our hospitals, our libraries, our public spaces safe, and create the kind of world we believe everyone deserves, where they can live in safety, but with dignity and also freedom. So thank you all again so much for joining us tonight. And we will see you soon, if not in the streets or in your schools or your work sites.